Alright guys, before jumping into this video and getting started with the 5 things you ought to know, upon closer inspection, I do notice that I do have a little bit of a mealybug problem on some of my Pilea plants that I have in front of you. So before jumping into all of that, what I want to do is just kind of treat these houseplants that you see in front of you, repot them in a fresh new soil, and just go through that entire process with you before jumping into the 5 things that you ought to know. I'm going to be using these gorgeous ceramic pots. Now they do have a drainage hole and a built-in saucer, which is fantastic. As far as my soil mix goes and soil composition, I'm using about 3 parts peat moss, about 2 parts, really 1.5 parts perlite, with 1 part of some horticultural charcoal, as well as a little bit of composted pine bark, just to keep things from compacting and really getting, too kind of compacted. So that's it, and I'm going to be adding some additive, which will help prevent any sort of houseplant pests, and I'll touch base on the treatment and prevention stuff that I'm going to do up next. All right, so in terms of the additive that I'll be using, I will be using this. I've mentioned this more than a few times in my videos. This is systemic houseplant insect control. I'll be sure to throw up the name in the description of this video. And as per the instructions on the back, I'm going to be adding that to my soil mix before using it. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that now. All right, guys, as you can see, this is a little bit of an emergency situation. There's quite the infestation on this particular plant. So this is exactly why I want to repot this and treat all of these mealybugs. No need to kind of throw this plant out or anything like drastic like that. This is definitely a fixable problem and something that happens to all of us, unfortunately. So do not fret. Let's get this treated and repotted. All right, guys, so just be conscientious of where you're keeping the containers and stuff once you've removed the plants, because obviously there could be mealybugs just about anywhere and everywhere. So I'm gonna try to keep all of the soil in one place and keep these containers kind of off to the side when I'm done with them, just because of, like I mentioned, the mealybug problem. And I'm also wearing gloves, as you can see. And I'm just loosening up the soil around in and around the plant. And despite my mealybug problem, the roots do look pretty good, so that's great. I'm just gonna finish loosening up the rest of this soil around here, and then I'm going to transplant it into its new home with some of that new soil. Thanks for checking out this video. I'm Tyler, and if you like what you're seeing or you find this video to be useful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, or better yet, you can hit that subscribe button. Now, to really show me some love, click on the bell for alerts and notifications for future content. And don't forget to check out my merch store, tylermossop.com, or simply hit the store tab on my YouTube homepage. So guys, before transplanting this into the new pot, because of the mealybug situation that I showed you, I'm going to actually use this opportunity while I have the plant in a more flexible way that I can move around and treat with this houseplant garden insect killer, kills on contact. Again, I'll list this in the description, but I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of place the plant in a way where I can just sort of get in there and treat this plant. Now, this does have neem oil in it, and when you're using a product that has neem oil in it, you just want to be conscientious of not, once this plant's repotted and potted up, not putting it any direct sunlight, because the direct sunlight in combination with the neem oil can really kind of do a plant in. So I'm gonna keep this plant not in direct sunlight just until the neem oil has kind of dissipated, or it's been a couple of days, so that I'm not burning the leaves from the neem oil. But as you can see, I'm just kind of gently, spraying the plant and just getting in all the nooks and crannies. So that will kind of treat the stem and the leaves, and I have that additive to the soil, which will help keep the mealy bugs away. And you just want to do this very carefully and, like, you know, be thoughtful about it, but this is looking pretty good. I might get some paper towel and just wipe off the leaves with a little bit of this product as well, but we should be good to go. So with this now treated, it's time for it to go into its new home. I have gone ahead and just filled up the base of the container with some of the soil mix. I'm just going to carefully place this in here, and you may have some pups that are coming through from the root system, so just make sure that those are facing up if you need to. And I've actually put a little bit too much of this soil mix in there, so just get rid of some of that. And there we go. A little bit more. All right, so now that that's situated, I'm going to fill this up. Now I do have some of these stakes that I'm going to repurpose, and then that way it will give me some stability, and I'll be able to just kind of keep this even more upright than it was previously. So let me just fill this in and add the stake, and then I'll be back to show you what the finished product looks like. All right, guys, so here is this one potted up. It's been really nicely treated, and as you can see, I've really thoroughly treated the stem and the leaves, so no more mealybugs, and the additive is in the soil. So this guy's looking a little bit down at the moment, but in a couple of weeks, it should be looking much better. And yeah, there you go. Time to get on to the others. All right, guys, now with these repotted and addressed in terms of any sort of mealybug issue that I was seeing, it was mostly on this one here. So glad that I was able to repot these, give them a treatment, and also use some preventative measures as well in terms of the soil additive. Now, just in terms of sort of continuation of treatment and prevention, always a good idea to, when you're watering your houseplants, to take a peek and see just closely what's going on there. Now that I've treated these, I'll probably keep them aside out of too much bright and direct light just for a few days, and it's probably not a bad idea to treat these again for the next 2 or 3 days with that spray, and just make sure that I'm kind of wiping down the leaves with paper towel and with some of that solution on it, and just keep these nice and healthy. But now that they are looking gorgeous in these new pots, it's time to jump into 5 things you ought to know when it comes for caring for your Pilea. Now, I absolutely love these plants, and generally speaking, they are pretty easy care plants. As you can see, they can get pests, so taking a closer look, like I mentioned, is really important. But let's jump into those 5 things right now. All right, guys, so the first few tips really revolve around the ultimate and the ideal conditions when it comes to caring for your Pilea. Now, in terms of watering, you do want to make sure that these are watered quite frequently. They do appreciate some moisture in the soil at all times. So what I really recommend is giving these a good water when the topsoil or the top inch or so of the soil is dry. That's a great indication that it's time to water them. Using a pot and container that has drainage and a built-in saucer is great, especially with the soil mix that we used. Any excess water will ultimately kind of drain through and not waterlog or clog up the root system with too much water. Beyond that, when it comes to light, the second tip now, in terms of light, you really do want to provide these with some really good bright indirect light, but that comes with a huge caveat and warning that direct sunlight is no bueno. It's no good for these plants, so definitely keep them out of direct sunlight. Putting them in a windowsill is really kind of the ultimate spot for them. Just, a windowsill that's getting good indirect light, I would say. Now, last, in terms of these first few initial tips is the soil composition. Now the secret or key is using a high level of peat moss that just keeps the acidity or the soil pH level kind of a little bit slightly acidic where you want it, and that will help these plants really thrive. One thing I am known for doing is using an additive basically to the water when I water these to help keep the soil level and the whole environment just slightly acidic. I find that these really benefit from something like that. All right, guys, so the final two tips that I want to share with you kind of revolve around fertilization and humidity. Now, one thing that I think not a lot of folks know is that these plants do prefer higher humidity. So if that's something you can provide for them, they will do they'll do even better basically. But if you can't necessarily provide a more humid environment for them, be sure to keep these away from cool drafts or vents or that kind of thing, because that can really mess with these Pilea, these houseplants. So if you can't give them humidity, you should try, but do keep them away from kind of doors, entrances. If you live in the Northeast like me and you get really cold winter temperatures, you don't want to keep these close to the entrance or doors like that. And also AC in the summer, so close to vents where you're getting a lot of air conditioning is probably not a great idea. And the last thing I want to mention is fertilization. Now these plants don't really require that much fertilizer, so I don't even think I fertilize mine basically very much at all, if ever, especially with how these are looking. They look relatively good, minus the pest problem. So I think to wrap this video up, I would just say always be sure to kind of take a closer look at your plants when you're watering them. Make sure that there aren't little mealybugs or pests crawling around. When you have as many houseplants as I do, it can become a challenge at times, especially when you're working full time and you've got a lot going on. So it was great for me to check in on these and treat them, and I'll be sure to follow up to ensure that they continue to do even better than they currently are. Well, that's it for me. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, or better yet, hit that subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed. Miss you guys already. Until the next one.